Okay, let's get to some of the talk that we're ready to talk about. And Bob, let's talk about how you're feeling. You talk about the bullishness and some of the technicals, the money is showing in the options market, that people are still believing overall. And there's strong margins for memory. You look at some of the good news in power equipment. Bob, tell me more about your optimism, it seems, here.
Well, look, I mean, if I'm just taking a look at purely at the chart of the SMH, for instance, it's in a bullish uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, which is a textbook definition of an uptrend here. It's had good, strong volume over the past 6.5 weeks. Again, making higher highs, higher lows, definitely attracts more money to come into these stocks. It's not just one name or two names. It's not just Nvidia. It's not just Broadcom. You're seeing names like Marvell and Intel shining brightly right now. You see other companies in the, like you mentioned, Applied Materials, which got an upgrade today to a $750 price target. It still has some room to go there. Qualcomm came up with some great earnings numbers releases last quarter, and last week they came out and guided their next quarter and the rest of the year significantly higher. So there's a lot of names out there that can do well. I think the SMH, the semiconductor index, did get a little bit hot recently, went a little bit over its skis. I think it was reserving for a little bit of a pullback. But look, these pullbacks are being bought aggressively by the dip buyers. And one thing that I learned long ago, Nicole, is that the best trends don't barely give you a chance to get in. So I think that SMH is one of those that it fits that criteria there in a lot of these stocks as well.
Yeah, so the dip buyers are stepping in and once again supporting your bullish thesis. Stephen, right. You also noted, by the way, you both talked about Intel and that we're waiting on the Intel numbers and that could really tell us a story. You mentioned Qualcomm, Stephen. You said that was compelling. Nvidia lines the roadmap for this group for the most part, but you said the reward comes from monetization, the CapEx spending. You want to see it in products, customers, revenue. Give me some examples of that. Are we seeing that yet? Are you feeling confident?
I think it's one of those things where think about how long we've been talking about Vera Rubin from Nvidia. I mean, we've been talking about it for quarters, and we actually got to see it for the first time installed at CoreWeave last week. And so think about how long we've been sort of getting everything ready for this big step forward in reducing the cost per token, which is something Nvidia has been talking about for a long, long time. I think when you start to look at monetization, there's been a lot of talk recently about people surprised at how much AI costs when you actually pay the per token rate. And so I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of the work that's been done over the last 2 years to reduce the cost per token is actually starting to hit now. And I think what I'm really looking forward to, particularly as agentic AI accelerates, anybody who's used agentic AI for anything real, none of us want to go back. And so I think that's where we will start to see the real benefit, whether you're using agentic AI to do something that you weren't able to do before because you weren't going to put people going through old emails and that sort of thing, or you're using agentic AI to build something new. I think we're really starting to see the particular use cases. And what I need to see is for that to start to migrate into the enterprise, because the enterprise is where all that valuable contextual data is stored. You look at the announcement between NVIDIA and Palantir talking about using that contextual data inside those giant companies or government agencies. That's where a lot of the value is, and that has yet to be unlocked.
Yeah. Okay. I think about the memory stocks, and I know we've had some volatility in the group, but, memory got its momentum back. And so that was a group you were watching, the strong margins there, Bob. That was a group you watched. You talked about the equipment makers, AMAT, Lam Research, KLA. But I also think about your Intel comment, and you said really Intel is going to tell us something. Tell me what you're waiting on for Intel. I mean, it sounds like you're bullish on the group overall, but will Intel sort of solidify that for you?
Absolutely, Nicole. I'm looking for Intel to announce some nice deals with some partnerships, some new customers. Last week, we heard Micron announce 14 of 16 customers were over $100 billion deals. Those are long-term deals. So that really solidified their place as the supplier of DRAM. So I think Intel is going to provide some of that same sort of results when they report earnings in about 2.5 weeks. So I'm looking for Intel to show some leadership here with the rest of the market. They're the first semiconductor company to come out with earnings before the whole group starts hitting the street with their earnings. So I do think that Intel's got an advantage here. First mover advantage with their earnings report, and I do believe that they're going to come out and hit the ball out of the park here with some heavy, strong margins and some good revenue growth.
Yeah, and look, that stock's gone from $18 up to $141 this year. Intel's been an incredible mover. In 1 year, up 482%. Stephen, you did mention Taiwan Semi and ASML. We talked a little bit about SK Hynix and Samsung making over a $500 billion investment in South Korea. Final thought quickly, Stephen. I know we used some of our time for the breaking news.
Sure. I think the thing to watch is these companies are full of very smart people who have the long view about the AI market. And when you see these kinds of investments continuing, I think that's the thing to keep an eye on is those forward investments. $500 million here, $500 million there. Eventually, you're talking real money.
The stock of Nvidia is experiencing a decline in the early summer. The insight, according to analyst statistics, Nvidia shares have now lagged the S&P 500 for 6 consecutive trading days. Since September 2025, this is the longest period of relative underperformance. The second quarter concludes today, and the AI darling's performance has been inconsistent. On May 14th, Nvidia's closing price reached an all-time high of $235.47, but since then, the stock has significantly decreased by almost 23%. The primary cause of Nvidia's recent underperformance in comparison to the S&P 500 has been an institutional sector migration away from high-flying AI hardware stocks and towards certain subsectors like memory chips. Additionally, Wall Street is becoming more and more irritated with big tech's enormous capital expenditures on artificial intelligence, which are expected to increase by 70% to over $700 billion this year. It makes natural that Nvidia has started to lag a little when you take into account worries about a Fed rate hike later this year, which would raise the cost of financing for AI projects. Wedbush tech analyst Dan Ives stated in an interview regarding the downturn in leading tech stocks that many of them are being handled like bear market equities. The start of hyperscaler earnings season in a few weeks could be Nvidia's next big boost, since the company's ambitious capital expenditure plans could spark fresh interest in the company. Until then, there might be more stock declines. Graphics processing units, GPUs, have been the talk of the town in recent years. This is due to the fact that important artificial intelligence, AI operations, such as training big language models, are powered by these processors. Businesses having experience in this area witnessed a sharp increase in revenue. Nvidia and Advanced Micro Devices are two excellent examples. Despite Nvidia's market dominance, AMD is also there and has profited from this AI narrative. But now, a different kind of chip is becoming a major force in AI. These are the primary processors found in all computers, and that is the Central Processing Unit, CPU. The CPU may be the star of the show as agentic AI develops. Agentic AI is when AI really solves an issue or problems on behalf of humans. Additionally, the CPU provides just the right kind of fuel to direct this operation. Both Nvidia and AMD are present in the CPU industry, but it's crucial to remember that Nvidia is more of a novice and AMD is a leader in this field. Which AI CPU stock is the best option right now? Let's investigate. As this AI tale develops, Nvidia has reaped significant benefits from the need for GPUs. And this keeps happening because GPUs are a crucial component of AI, and Nvidia's innovation keeps it at the top. This autumn, the company will debut its Vera Rubin platform, which should boost earnings and the stock price. In addition, Nvidia is releasing its first standalone CPU at the same time, claiming that it wants to dominate the $200 billion CPU market. Nvidia anticipates $20 billion in sales of standalone CPUs this year alone, demonstrating remarkable early achievement. Nvidia is also pursuing the CPU market for personal computers at the same time. This fall, the company will introduce a superchip with a CPU and GPU. This will be a high-end product, but the company intends to expand into other price points in the future. Thus, it is evident that this AI pioneer has high expectations for the CPU market. The argument for AMD is that despite Intel's roughly 60% market dominance in CPUs, AMD is in second place with about 39%. It's true that Nvidia might dominate the market for CPUs for data centers, but it might be harder for the AI behemoth to rule the PC market. With a share of over 52% in the desktop market, AMD has even overtaken Intel. Therefore, even though AMD isn't thrilled with Nvidia's CPU aspirations, this long-standing CPU behemoth might not give up its position so quickly. At the same time, there is space for multiple businesses to flourish as the need for agentic AI soars. This has been observed in the field of GPUs. Despite entering this industry later than Nvidia, AMD has had success and is probably going to continue. According to the company, demand for AI infrastructure has increased in the most recent quarter, and data centers are now the company's main source of earnings growth. As previously stated, both of these businesses are succeeding in the GPU market, despite Nvidia's continued dominance. Now, I believe the same thing might occur in the CPU market. There will be a lot of demand for AI to boost Nvidia and AMD's earnings. Given its present advantages in the data center industry, Nvidia may have a competitive advantage. AMD may continue to dominate the PC business, while Nvidia may find it difficult to go beyond its high-end models and gain traction in the broader PC market. Nevertheless, I believe that both of these businesses will eventually benefit from the AI surge. However, Nvidia is undoubtedly the best purchase right now, and this is related to value. Nvidia appears extremely cheap at just 21x forward earnings expectations, while AMD trades at 70x estimates. Thus, Nvidia currently presents investors with a stronger CPU purchase opportunity. While others in the AI scene play checkers, Nvidia's renowned top executive might be playing chess. The price-to-earnings (PE) ratio repeatedly falls below the 30 times mark for the first time in a long time, and it feels like Nvidia stock is nothing short of a bargain given the impending Vera Rubin era and the mega-cap tech giants' unreluctance to continue spending enticing sums on capital expenditure, much of which is going toward next-generation AI chips. One may argue that the Vera Rubin surge alone would be sufficient justification for buying the stock when it drops below $200 per share once more. As we go toward the second half of the year, demand for AI continues to rise, possibly significantly. But there are still concerns about what might happen when bespoke silicon-think ASICs start to replace GPUs in data centers of the future. In addition to supporting the truck with GPUs, the hyperscalers are investing large sums of money in AI chip research and development, which may enable many of Nvidia's largest clients shift away from the giant. In any event, it seems like the market is large enough for a few custom silicon companies to enter the market and empty Nvidia's shelves. Most notably, as it seeks to sell TPUs to businesses that would have otherwise purchased GPUs, Alphabet's Google might open up a sizable revenue stream for itself. In any event, the main question for Nvidia, though, isn't just whether the firm can excel by playing defense against a number of firms that want more cost-effective chips at the inference inflection point. With agentics and robotics on the horizon, a compelling case could be made that more than just Nvidia is going to need to step up to the plate to meet that need. And as other corporations begin to make noise with their own chips, my guess is that the cost of tokens will fall lower, bringing forth even more demand. As token prices decrease and big language models, LLMs, grow less massive, questions linger as to what happens once AI finds its home in the edge. Indeed, if consumers aren't so eager to pay for AI services, perhaps putting the hardware investment up front could be the approach. Add opposition and NIMBYism facing future AI data center builds into the mix, and perhaps the edge might represent the next great opportunity in the scene. Arguably, Apple already has a strong stage set with its current foundation models and the architecture underlying them, instruction following pruning, that allows iPhones to pack quite a punch, given the hardware limits a minimum of 12 GB of RAM in this case. In any case, it's obvious that Nvidia's CEO won't stand by as the AI revolution develops and more people think about the most cost-effective ways to employ AI. I do believe that the edge might be a source of amazing good surprises as we move away from token maxing and toward intentional, efficient utilization. Furthermore, it's not limited to phones. The adoption of AI PCs has been somewhat slow so far, but that could soon change, particularly as Nvidia seeks to strengthen the PCs of the future. I do believe that Nvidia is in a good position to benefit from the edge AI explosion, whether we are discussing the RTX Spark superchip or the collaboration with Microsoft. Indeed, adding edge AI and Nvidia hardware might make the battle between Macs and PCs much more intense. In any event, perhaps Jensen Huang is right on the money when he believes things like AI supercomputers might be prevalent in the home. Although it may seem unrealistic at first, I believe that Apple's M-series processor on the Mac side and RTX Spark on the PC side have already laid the ground for such. I do believe that Nvidia is in a good position to make money when regular consumers choose to use more local compute and less from the cloud. At the end of the day, Nvidia's reach encompasses all key layers of what Jensen Huang refers to as an AI cake. And in that aspect, shares appear way too cheap today, given that shares still seem priced as a cyclical GPU seller that's nearing some sort of high, something that I feel is far from reality. Nvidia has what it takes to succeed both at home and in the cloud, in my humble view.
Do either one of you feel comfortable I just mentioned, like, we had SK Hynix and we also had Samsung with the big investment in South Korea, but also AMAT and SMCI were benefiting from that to a certain extent as well. Stephen, did you have a thought on any of this breaking news as SMCI turns negative here on this probe of potential chip smuggling reported by Bloomberg?
Well, I think one of the things to really think. I think one of the things to really think about is that I've gotten to see some of the controls that a company like Applied Materials has over making sure that sort of thing doesn't happen. And so I do think that it's always difficult to comment on something that's breaking, but I did want to sort of put some space in between those two names just because I know that Supermicro has had some concerns in that area. Company's been very aggressive about trying to address them. But there's never, or at least there hasn't been anything that I've seen around Applied that would tie it in any way to that.
Yeah. And Bob, also to you, again, if you're not comfortable commenting, please don't, but it is breaking news, and I thought I'd give you a chance to comment if you have any thoughts that you care to share about this story.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, good to see you, Nicole. So I'm looking at alternatives to SMCI here, and I got to look at Dell. Dell is a competitor, and they the last time Supermicro ran into some trouble or some difficulty, I think they had some auditing issues. It was a slam dunk for Dell. They picked up a lot of business and a lot of their customers and so forth. So I would look optimistically in that direction towards Dell. I wouldn't waste any more time with SMCI here right now. If I'm in the stock right now, it's really got some poor action. It's not the first time, and usually where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think that there's some fire coming out of SMCI right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bob, to your point here on Dell, and since we're in breaking news mode, and I want to get to all your comments pertaining to the chips, Dell intraday is now right around the session highs. It went up to 414 a short time ago as this was breaking. So makes some sense there. As you said, SMCI lower.